If we know that we'll look back and think, oh, that wasn't preferable to what the technology we could have used, then why not just now take it upon yourself to be a person that later on in future they'll look back at you and be like, oh, you were a forward thinker, you were thinking ahead, you weren't doing that thing that you knew wasn't comfortable or wasn't right. Like, what do you think about that?
I'm not sure, man. Like, I think apparently, like, there's theories that in the future, like in the far future, everyone might be vegan or vegetarian or something, and then eating meat might be considered then same way we view slavery now or something.
So I got Casper with me today, and we're going to be talking about why you're not vegan or why you should be vegan. So the first question is because you said before that you were vegetarian. And have you never been vegan yourself, have you?
No, I haven't. Although there's been times where I just haven't eaten any animal products at all, but not because I've actively decided to refrain from eating them.
Yeah. So, like, because we're sat here today, I've spoken to a friend about like animal lovers, and turned it around in the sense of saying, okay, well, it wouldn't really be loving to do the things that we do to animals. Do you agree with that premise, the things that you heard?
Yeah, I think the way animals are treated in like the industry of how they're like turned into meat, right? I think it's pretty cruel. Mm-hmm. And like the way they treat them is a bit unnatural as well.
Yeah. Obviously, like, I'd be careful with the kind of like it being unnatural because like medicine's not natural, but it's excellent in keeping us alive and everything, Would you agree that there's no morally significant difference between humans and other animals that would justify what we do? Or do you think there is something that is different about them that means, okay, well, what we're actually doing to them is fine?
I mean, I don't think they don't have the same cognitive ability as humans, but I think they can still feel pain, right?
Absolutely, they're considered sentient, so that they are a subject having an experience.
It's like they have memory and experience, right? Mm-hmm. But they don't have like the capability to understand some things, right?
Yeah, so like we were all very young children at one point. I remember being like 6 years old, and I didn't really understand very much around me, but I remember being hurt and everything. So children don't have as much capacity and understanding as an adult does, but would you say that their life is still valuable and just as much as it would be if they were an adult?
I'd say it's definitely valuable, but a lot of the time I think when they're like bred and stuff, they're not even bred in a natural way. And like 100 years ago, that branch of species probably didn't exist because they've bred it so much.
Selectively bred them, yeah, exactly, yeah.
So it's a bit weird. It's like for them, it's like living in some kind of matrix because they don't understand what's going on and what they're being used for.
Mm-hmm. So what's the barrier now then? If you know there's no real kind of difference that would justify it, if you know that it's cruel, like what would you say is stopping you from going vegan right now?
I do eat quite a lot. I mean, I'm quite a big eater, and it's just that all my family eats meat as well. So they just, I do cook some of my food sometimes. I just eat whatever, like, say my mum or my dad makes.
Yeah. I mean, like, my brother's the same. Like, he still lives at home, eats with my family and stuff. And I lived with my family, and I just, I would make my own meals and everything. It would just be like, they might have like non-vegan nuggets. I would have the vegan nuggets. Yeah. So would you say that knowing what happens to animals, knowing it's cruel, that you would, ask them to just accommodate a difference in lifestyle?
I'm not sure, actually, because I don't know, actually. I mean, if I was, like, when I, like, move out, I probably wouldn't even think much about what I'm buying. I would just buy whatever I feel like getting, which a lot of the time isn't that much meat, because, like, there's things like beef, and I don't think it tastes that nice.
Yeah, well, as you said, like, you eat a lot, but you don't have to. You can still, sadly, so much, but avoiding animal products, like, completely, like. I'm a big eater as well, and like if I'm going to the gym trying to lift weights and everything, you do have to eat like extra, make sure you're getting your protein in, and this is very possible and even easy if you're a vegan.
Yeah, and like as I said before, I do eat a lot of eggs, right?
Uh-huh.
And you said that the chickens are treated quite unnaturally and cruelly.
Yeah, so they're macerated. I don't know if you've seen a video where they go
I think
in.
I've seen a video of like
Yeah.
like them being blended.
Do you know why that's happening?
I think it's because like the males they can't like reproduce.
Yeah, they can't lay eggs. Yeah.
Turn into nuggets basically.
Yeah, they're turned into this mushy paste that goes as a nugget.
It's like sausages or something.
And then somehow people think the vegan version is gross, even though that's like mushed up babies. But yeah, then obviously with the females, they don't have a good time either. They are overproducing the eggs. That's how, as you said before, that they are selectively bred. All these animals that we have, they're overproducing. It's a lot of havoc on their body, and then when they can't do it anymore, then they are sent to have their throat slit. So yeah, with things like eggs and milk, it doesn't seem like as horrible as what happens in the meat industry, but arguably it's even worse because their suffering's prolonged. Is that something that you could just say like, oh, I don't want to eat that anymore and eat something else?
Usually I don't really. When you look at a package, you can't tell where it's coming from, can you?
It might be somewhat intentional that they don't show the grimy bits. We don't tell children the grimy bits, when we take them to the farm. Nobody gets told about those things. And I think because intrinsically we would have a problem with that.
Yeah, I think at my dad's house, like just across the street, there's a sort of farm, and I think they have chickens, they have swans.
Swans?
And a bunch of other stuff. And they get their own eggs, right? And I think it's properly like, they treat them well and everything, because every day I can see them going to the field and like, cater for them and everything. Problem is that like, I think the eggs there are like a lot more expensive than.
Yeah, to get that kind of like utopian situation where they're being like massaged and looked after, and they just so happen to fall, it wouldn't be something that we could just purchase. So it's just so much easier. And we talked about affordability beforehand, with your friend. That would be so expensive, and to get all these labels like free range, grass fed, they then up the price when really it had no difference to the victim whatsoever.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think they actually kill any of the chickens, right? Because I think they still grow them. I'm not sure. I haven't seen.
I'm imagining they probably, like, it may be the case because they don't lay eggs their entire life. If they're wanting the eggs for that purpose, then they might just get rid of them, or fob them off to somebody else, or kill them. Who knows? But usually in those sorts of operations, they're still being killed when they can't do it anymore, or they're being just kind of ditched on someone else, which I wouldn't say is very fair.
Yeah, I don't think they sell any actual meat. I think it's just like eggs, and I think they also sell honey there as well, because they have like a bunch of honey, the combs or whatever. I don't know what it is that they use to like grow the honey or whatever. Not grow the honey.
Grow the honey, yeah.
Yeah, whatever it is.
Do you feel like you know enough about veganism to have it be something that you would actually desire to do when you have the ability to do so?
I mean, I do have like some stuff that there's protein powder, right, that you can get, and I think that just is vegan.
Some of it's using whey protein. But things are very helpfully labelled these days. Like there's like my protein, my vegan protein and stuff like that. Vivo Life. There's all sorts that you can get that are the vegan. I have one I get from Tesco. So
yeah, I do have a bag, quite a big bag of protein. I don't know whether it's vegan or not, but I'm assuming it doesn't have any like meat.
If you look at the back, if in bold it says milk, then no, it's not vegan. But do you know very much about the dairy industry?
I do know a little bit. I think they probably the same with the chicken things. They kill the male ones, right?
I'd argue the dairy industry is probably one of the most heinous. When you look at what's happening, obviously cows are mammals, so they need to have a baby to produce milk like we do. Where's the baby going? And how did the baby get there in the first place? Because they don't put the males with the females, so they will electrally ejaculate the male, the bull, which I find really creepy. Then they will insert the anus of the female cow and then artificially inseminate her cervix. Then she will have a baby, and the baby will be taken away from her And have you heard of veal before?
No, I have not.
Veal is baby cow. So the babies are killed, and baby animals, typically when we're eating animals, we're eating babies because their flesh is nice and tender. You know, it's not like an old granny or like sheep when they're old, they're called mutton. So yeah, like people eat these baby cows for because of the delicate flesh.
Yeah.
But yeah, because people want the milk, the mums aren't having their babies, and that causes them psychological stress. And when they can't do that any longer because they become quite lame, they are then killed as well and then put into cheap burgers.
Yeah,
That's dairy.
There's like, I think scientists have been able to grow meat, haven't they? I think there's
Cultured meat that's it's already being done, but they're trying to do it without the bovine serum, which is the a fetus of a cow, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think they can also use stem cells, right? To, like,
I think so. Science.
Yeah.
It's not my forte.
I think there might be some restaurants that are doing that already, and I think that would probably be, like, morally preferable to killing animals.
That's the thing. I think if we look back at history, so many things have happened that were wrong and people wondered why it was happening. I just think it's because, like, it's not because of bad people doing bad things. It's because, like, good people just kind of went with the social norm and didn't really question it. So I think it's not such a shock that we're living in one of those right now. Like, if we know that we'll look back and think, oh, that wasn't preferable to what the technology we could have used, then why not just now take it upon yourself to be a person that later on in future they'll look back at you and be like, oh, you were a forward thinker, you were thinking ahead, you know, you weren't doing that thing that you knew wasn't comfortable or wasn't right. Like, what do you think about that?
I'm not sure, man. Like, I think apparently, like, there's theories that in the future, like in the far future, everyone might be vegan or vegetarian or something, and then eating meat might be considered then same way we view slavery now or something.
I mean, if there's no morally significant difference, and then we're looking at all these animals, because we're talking about trillions of animals being killed every single year, like trillions. It's actually ridiculous. Like, you couldn't fathom, like, try and imagine 1,000 bulls, then 10,000, then 100,000, then just go up all the way to 1 million, and then to 1 billion, and those are all individuals, and then to 1 trillion. It's unfathomable what we're doing. So definitely, I'd say get ahead and make that change, and still be, you know, built as fuck. Like, yeah.
It's pretty. A trillion. That's not like 1 million times 1 million.
It's a billion. A trillion,
No,
I think.
10 to the 12, isn't it? So that's
Something like it. It's the American trillion, I think. I think they've changed it where it's now universal. But I thought it was a billion, or.
I think it's 1 billion, so 10 to the 6. Billion, 10 to the 9, then trillion, 10 to the 12.
Oh, okay. So a lot then. Yeah. Also,
Even then, though.
Yeah, just a lot.
Yeah,
Again, mathematics not my thing, science not my thing, but I definitely know that stabbing animals isn't good at all. That's my thing.
Yeah, there's also like the plant alternatives as well. There's also the environment thing, like the cruelty thing is obviously one good enough reason to not eat meat in the first place. I mean, there's also the argument for meat being bad for the environment, but there's also a lot of plant stuff that's quite bad for the environment, like the almonds. Like, there are people like burning down entire forests and then turning it into like a farm where they're growing.
Oh, so you mean like palm oil?
Yeah, palm oil.
The thing is, when we're talking about plants, obviously there are going to be some naughty ones that are a bit worse, and maybe there'll be technology where we don't even grow it and it's just like, you know, like made in a 3D printer or something. But when we're talking about crops and everything, we tend to forget that there's 70 plus billion land animals on the planet right now who are being farmed. They are being fed crops. So the problems that we have with the crops that are being grown, some of them being like really bad contributors, well, the trophic pyramid, you know, the law of thermodynamics, we are using more energy when we include those animals. And that's why it's such an environmental argument, because that's why it's so devastating to the planet to include animals in this way, because we're talking about billions.
Yeah, I think I heard like in this video or something, apparently it's like this whole thing about the environment and how like a lot of the environment. So meat isn't as like apparently it's not as bad for the environment as they make it seem. Like because a lot of the plants that they feed it, for example, that's inedible to humans. Some people might just argue you can feed it to humans anyway.
No, so basically something like alfalfa is actually technically edible for humans. We just don't eat it. So that's the difference. It's not being consumed. There are some things that are inedible, like, like hay, for example, but we wouldn't need to grow that if we didn't have all those animals in that position, right?
Yeah. I think I've run out of things to say.
Yeah, well, thank you so much for having this talk, and I hope that it's something to think about.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. All right, cheers. Thanks for the conversation.